Black mechanic warned police for weeks. Cops ignored him. Then the FBI found the smuggling ring. Cliff was just a mechanic. He didn't have a badge or a title. He fixed cars, changed oil, and minded his business. But every night he noticed strange trucks going into a warehouse across from his shop. It wasn't just the trucks, it was the way they came at 2 a.m., always with blacked-out windows, always in silence. So Cliff called the police once, twice, 10 times, but they never came. They laughed at him. "You're just seeing things," they said, but Cliff knew what he saw. Then one day a man in a black suit walked into Cliff's garage. He wasn't a cop, he was FBI, and what Cliff told him changed everything. What they discovered together would become the biggest smuggling bust in state history. Before we dive in, please support us by subscribe, like, and share for more with activating the notification bell. Thank you. Cliff Johnson was no superhero. He didn't live in a fancy house or drive a nice car. He was a hard-working black mechanic in a small town called Ashfield. People knew him as the guy who could fix any engine. His shop, Cliff's Auto Repair, was old, but honest. The sign was faded, and the tools were worn. But Cliff was sharp. What made Cliff different wasn't just his skills, it was the way he saw the world. He paid attention. He noticed small things. That's why, when the old warehouse across the street started acting strange, he didn't brush it off. The warehouse, known as Grayson Imports, looked abandoned during the day. No trucks came in, no forklifts, no workers, nothing. But at night, everything changed. Cliff started noticing black vans pulling in. No lights on, no logos, just quiet vehicles. Always late at night. He would watch them from his garage while working late. One night he saw men carrying large crates. They looked heavy. Another time he saw a man struggling as he was pushed inside. Cliff thought, this isn't normal. At first, he tried to forget about it, but the pattern kept repeating. Every few nights, the same thing. Different vehicles, same strange behavior. His gut told him something was wrong. That's when he decided to take action. He picked up his phone and called the police. What happened next shocked him. When Cliff made his first call to the Ashfield Police Department, he explained everything he'd seen. He gave the time the vans came. He described the people, some wearing masks, some with earpieces. He even gave them the license plate of one of the trucks. The officer on the line said, "All right, we'll check it out," but they never did. A few nights later, Cliff saw the same van. He called again. This time the dispatcher seemed annoyed. "It's probably just late-night deliveries," she said. "Try not to worry." Cliff knew what a normal delivery looked like. This wasn't it. He called again and again. He took pictures with his old phone. The images were grainy, but you could still make out the black vans and the crates. Cliff even started keeping a logbook, writing down dates, times, and anything unusual. Still, the police never showed up. In fact, they started making jokes. "Got another warehouse ghost story for us, Cliff?" One officer laughed during his fourth call. One officer even told him, "You should stick to fixing cars." Man, it hurt. Cliff had spent his life doing honest work, always helping people. Now no one believed him, but he didn't stop. He couldn't. He knew something bad was happening. So he went a step further. He printed out some of the photos and walked into the police station. A young officer looked at them and shrugged. "Could be anything," he said. "We're too busy for this." That's when Cliff remembered a flyer he saw years ago. It had the FBI tip line on it. With no one else listening, Cliff called the number. The FBI tip line didn't call back right away, but 2 days later, a tall man in a neat black suit stepped into Cliff's garage. His shoes were too clean for a mechanic shop. His name was Special Agent Daniel Cross. He smiled politely and said, "Heard, you're the guy who sees things others miss." Cliff raised an eyebrow. "You here for a tune-up or something else?" Cross said, "I want to hear what you saw." Cliff took him to the back room of his garage. He showed the agent his notebook, full of dates and notes. He handed over the blurry photos and pointed out the same license plate appearing on different nights. He even had a hand-drawn map of how the vans entered and exited the warehouse. Agent Cross didn't laugh. He leaned in, he listened. Then he asked, "Do you mind if we set up some cameras around here?" Cliff nodded. "Be my guest." That night, FBI agents disguised as electricians installed small surveillance cameras around Cliff's shop. Cliff stayed up late, watching the screens. The same black van rolled into the warehouse at 2:17 a.m. 2 men got out and opened the back, heavy crates again. They looked military-grade. Cross returned the next morning with a serious face. "You just gave us the break we needed," he said. Cliff was confused. "What do you mean?" Cross explained that the FBI had been tracking a multi-state smuggling operation for over a year, but they kept losing the trail. Until now, Cliff had found their hiding place. 3 days later, just before sunrise, Cliff was woken by a soft knock at his door. It was Agent Cross. "It's happening," he whispered. Cliff rushed to the garage. Across the street, a dozen black SUVs rolled in silently, headlights off. FBI agents in dark gear jumped out. They surrounded the warehouse. Helicopters hovered quietly above. Everything moved fast but quietly. Then the floodlights flipped on federal agents. Get on the ground. Men outside the warehouse froze. A few tried to run, but agents tackled them. The warehouse doors burst open. Inside, the agents found more than they imagined. There were stacks of stolen goods, electronics, weapons, and even fake passports. But that wasn't the worst of it. In the back rooms, agents found 6 people being held. 2 were children. They had been missing for months. The place was being used to traffic people, weapons, and drugs. It was the largest smuggling bust in state history. Cliff watched it all from his garage. He felt a mix of relief and sadness. Relief that it was over. Sadness that no one had listened sooner. The Ashfield police arrived long after it was over. They looked around, confused, then embarrassed when they saw Cliff. Agent Cross came over, shook Cliff's hand and said, "You did this. You saved lives." News of the raid made headlines across the country. The FBI held a press conference and confirmed the smuggling operation stretched across multiple states. The warehouse in Ashfield had been its central hub. It had been operating for years right under everyone's noses. When reporters asked how it was discovered, Agent Cross said, "A mechanic kept watching when no one else did." Suddenly, Cliff Johnson was famous. People stopped by his shop not for oil changes, but to say thank you. A local artist painted a mural on the wall of Cliff's garage, him holding a wrench and standing beside an American flag. Above it were the words, "He saw what others ignored." The mayor visited and handed him the key to the city. The FBI gave him their Civilian Valor Award, and the 2 missing children were safely returned to their families. One of the mothers hugged Cliff with tears in her eyes. "You saved my baby," she said. But Cliff stayed humble. "I'm just a guy who pays attention," he said. Police officers who had laughed at him now nodded with respect. One even apologized, face to face. Cliff didn't want fame. He just wanted people to do the right thing. And because he did, lives were saved, a crime ring was stopped, and a town learned a lesson it would never forget. He had no badge, no uniform, and no rank. Just a wrench, a sharp eye, and a strong heart. They laughed when he called. They rolled their eyes. But Cliff Johnson didn't give up. He kept watching, kept writing, kept caring, and in the end, he changed everything. Remember his name. Cliff Johnson, the mechanic who saw the truth.